In this video, we are going to dive into using LangChain and Gemini Pro Vision to generate text from both images and text. Gemini Pro Vision is awesome at understanding images. Think of it like your image analysis expert. It can give you detailed descriptions, create summaries, and even answer tricky questions about what it sees. You can feed it images in a bunch of different ways. You can use a URL, a file path, a base 64 encoded image, or a PIL image object. Let's start with a PIL image. Now, if you are not familiar with PIL, it stands for Python Imaging Library. It's a free library that lets you do all sorts of cool stuff with images in Python. If you don't have it installed, just run pip install pillow to get it set up. I'm importing the image class from the pillow library. From pil, import image. Locally, in the same directory as this notebook, there's a JPEG file. This file. To open an image file and create a PIL image object, call image.open and pass the image path to the method. img equals image.open of match.jpg. And I'm displaying the image. I'm running the code. Look at this image. It's an image I took myself when I went to a match. I won't tell you what type of sport it was because I want to see if Gemini can identify the sport. By the way, can you figure out what sport this is? I'm copying all the necessary code for imports and authentication into this cell. I want you to have everything you need here so you can only run this cell. I'm creating the LLM object by selecting the Gemini Pro Vision model. The Gemini Pro Vision model takes as input a text and an image and returns text output. I am defining the prompt. What is in this image? Next, I will define a human message with a keyword argument called content. Content equals, and it contains a list of dictionaries. A list and dictionaries. Each dict contains either a text value or an image value of type image URL. I'm defining the first dictionary. Type, text. And the text, prompt. The value of the text key is the user's prompt. What is in this image? The second dictionary. Type, image URL. And the image URL, img. My PIL image object. The value of the image URL can be a public image URL, a local file path, a base 64 encoded image, or a PIL image. I am invoking the LLM by giving a list that contains the message object as an argument. This will return a response object, and I'm displaying it. Response.content. I'm running the code, and it responded correctly a rugby match. It correctly identified this is a rugby match. How did it know? Let's ask the model. To avoid repetitive code, I'm creating a function that queries the Gemini LLM with a text and an image, returning the response. def ask Gemini. The function's arguments will be text, the text query or prompt for the LLM, image, the image to provide as input, and the model, which is the name of the Gemini LLM model to use. It defaults to Gemini provision. I am copying the text from the previous cell and changing it. Text colon text and the image URL colon image, the function's parameters. And instead of printing the response, I will return it. Return response. I'm also changing the model. Model equals model. It defaults to Gemini provision, but I can use another model in the future. And that's it. I am running the code. Let's make a query. Response equals ask Gemini of. What is this sport? How can I identify the sport in this picture? And the second argument, img. The image is already loaded in an img variable. And print response dot content. I'm running it. I mistyped response, sorry. Now it's okay. I am running it. And it says this is a rugby match. And how can I identify the sport? Let's try something harder. How many players can you identify in each team? And it says there are 14 players in each team. Probably the last player is not shown in the image. Okay, let's wrap this up with one last example of how to use an image from a website. Import requests. We'll need this to make the web request. If the requests library is not installed, install it by running pip install requests. And from ipython.display, I am importing the image class. This lets us show the image in the notebook. And image URL equals and the address of the image we want. I am making the HTTP request and download the image. Content equals requests dot get of image URL dot content. And the image data equals image of content. Let's see the image. It looks like the nose of a cat. I am making the API call to Gemini provision. Response equals ask Gemini. I am calling the function I have created, and the arguments will be describe this image as detailed as possible. And the second argument, image URL. And I am printing the response. I'm running it. And I've got a pretty good answer saying that this image is an extreme close-up of a grey cat's nose. Very well. In this video, you learned how to harness the multimodal power of Gemini using LangChain. Now that you know how to use the Gemini Pro Vision API within LangChain, you can start building some amazing and innovative AI applications.